Welcome back to the Amsterdam Radio, the podcast for creatives. It is I, the mayor, Flobo Boys, in the mayor's office, hanging with someone that has so many slashes. We're talking about comedian, we're talking about filmmaking, we're talking about getting coached. Hashtag get coached. Please welcome the man, Bootsy Greenwood, aka Owen Hunt. How you doing, sir?
I am doing very well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. This is so fun already.
We were talking about this before we went live about that you are the most bootsiest. Like, how'd you the name Bootsy Greenwood? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, so that was kind of out of necessity. You know, my name is Owen. Owen Hunt is my name, and any fans of Grey's Anatomy are going to immediately recognize the name as the asshole on the show, which is great. And so I decided that I would go online as my stripper name, which is Bootsy Greenwood. And the way you derive that, if anybody wants to play at home, is it's the first pet you ever had plus the street you grew up on. And that's how you calculate it.
That doesn't work for one. I don't have a pet, and two, I grew up on East 41st Street. I'm the worst stripper. I'm like an algorithm. a robot.
That's so funny. Well, some people are just born with their stripper name, and that must be what happened with you. You know?
Yeah, apparently. So talk to me. Like, is it a character thing? Do you feel different when you address yourself as Bootsy, or is that just kind of a palette swap? You are Bootsy all the time.
I think it's just really a way for me to, I think it's the same person, but it's kind of a way for me to just be like, okay, well, I'm going to kind of, do this thing. Because when I do comedy, I do it as Owen Hunt.
Sure.
And so I do it it's not really it just seems to be kind of helpful as far as you can find me. I have that name on every platform. I didn't have to change it and put like haha or LOL or comedian so-and-so or, whatever. So it just has been really helpful for that, just for SEO, frankly.
Shout to Google. When did you get started in the comedy game? And why did you have to make the jump?
Yeah, I was a musician for years. And I remember Doug Stanhope's one of his specials, or maybe one of his interviews, like, I don't know, probably 15 years ago, where he was talking about the overlap between musicians and comics and how a lot of people start out as comics and become musicians and vice versa. And that he was a musician that, and I think Mitch Hedberg too, and like a bunch of other comedians as well. And I always thought that was so funny. I love music. I was a musician for years, and I love the energy and the collaborative nature of creative, in a group. And then I took improv as well. So I started improv in probably say like 2008. And then I started doing stand-up in 2018, oddly enough. So I'm still pretty new to that game.
Sure.
But I've had some really awesome opportunities. I'm super fortunate to.
And you're based out of the Midwest?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, or nearby.
Yeah. That's a good entertainment town. I mean, hot Atlanta, as they call it.
It is. And we've been booking shows outside of the city as well, too. And that's been going really well and been super fun. So things are just in this weird time that we find ourselves in. It's the time to be really creative. It's a time to do your own show, and take that leap, I think.
So you're doing stand-up. You talked about improv. In fact, if you're on the audio version, both Owen and I are enjoying crisp, cool LaCroix. They're not even paying us to say this. Got the lemon as a lime. It's like a simpatico. But my question was, there's many ways to express yourself in comedy. Stand-up and improv, which you've done. Sketch comedy is also on your Instagram Reels / TikTok. I don't know what they call them now. The short movie thing.
Yes.
What's been your potpourri? What's been your mix of expressing yourself comically?
I would say that it has to do with spirituality, because when I really started to dig into my own self, that's where I compartmentalized. I was like, well, this is funny and it's about what's wrong with the world. And this is spirituality and it's about love and unity. But I want to smash those two things together. And that's kind of what has kind of started to happen. The self-help thing. I like to make fun of not myself in like a self-deprecating way, but the way that I view the world. And I think it's a really good practice for anybody to be able to do that, because it can help you to kind of get a little more perspective and be a little bit more objective about how you do view the world. So we did a couple sketches. One was about a sleep paralysis witch that I fell in love with. And it's very obscure that I was like, this sketch is too niche, but it actually did pretty well, and it was super fun for anybody who kind of got it. But that was really a fun thing. We did a breathwork sketch where I die, and I won't ruin the ending.
Hilarious.
I was doing sketches with a couple of friends of mine, and it was like every sketch ended the same way. Somebody died.
Right.
It's like we got to do better than this, dude.
Right. Blackbird shot, bang. We were talking. You said a bit about the life coaching thing too, and it's funny because it all relates. Not to make this show about me because that's kind of weird, but one of my singles is called 10,000 Life Coaches, because in Los Angeles there are 10,000 certified. Not talking about the black market life coaches who are hanging out. But there's 10,000 life coaches who are just around to help other people. And I guess, what was your experience jumping into that? Because I feel like comedians have a little bit of built-in cynicism, but to be a life coach, you kind of like to have to not have that cynicism. What's been your mix?
I love it, dude. Yeah. What I love so much about comics is their cynicism, right? That cynical nature. And I consider myself to be a blue collar mystic. So I'm all about what is practical, what is helpful, what is useful, and what I can, tangible and results as well. So I started out in the sort of coaching realm, teaching specifically reality transurfing, which is this book that is a Russian book written by a quantum physicist named Vadim Zeland. It's a very curious book. He is a quantum physicist, so he takes a lot of these sort of spiritual ideas and he makes them as scientific as I've ever seen them presented. So that was kind of my introduction to all of that. And then I wanted to kind of make light of coaching in general because of that cynicism. And so it is hilarious on the surface to kind of approach this idea. But if we dig deep enough, it's true that every single person, we all need help. Like, I get coached, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I kind of went with the hashtag get coached, because to me it's like, get coached. It's like absurd, it's ridiculous. It's poking fun at coaching itself. And again, back to making fun of my own beliefs, being able to, and obviously I don't want to dismiss myself and my value and abilities, because I have some weird skills, like by, for instance, learning to do prank casting. Like, I've got a diverse range of skills because I learned how to do that, or improvisation, or just knowing about certain apps on the internet or services that are kind of obscure that other people might not know. So I don't want to, diminish my value, but at the same time, I want people to feel comfortable enough to be themselves and to be honest, and not to because I think a lot of that life coaching stuff is this, like, sometimes people can kind of create this bubble that's it's fake it till you fake it kind of thing. Right. And you just believe this idea that's not true yet just because. And it's like, I don't really go along with that. I want to see practical results. I want to see people succeed. It's actually the coolest job ever. I liked it way more than I thought. I started doing it on my own just this past year. And I've had so many incredible experiences myself. And I've had a lot of clients that really learned a lot more about who they were. And that's really what all spirituality comes down to, is Timet Noske. And so I try to focus on purpose. To me, like, every single human being is here for a reason. We all have a fingerprint. We all are like a snowflake or a raindrop. We are all so unique. And so I really want to try and help people find the thing about themselves that really makes them who they are, what their purpose and identity kind of come from at a deep level. And then at that point, if we can take that and sort of apply it to their life, then I think they get a lot more fulfillment out of their life. So that's kind of my approach.
So I got to ask though, there's a lot of tribes of one happening right there. Everyone feels their life is on hard mode. And it's great to someone make their first step to contact the coach, to hashtag get coached. But that must be kind of frustrating. And someone's like, hey, look, that's great, but my life is different, and therefore you wouldn't understand. I mean, you deal with that pushback when you have clients onboarding?
Well, I usually wouldn't. I haven't encountered that particular problem personally. Okay. But I do think that everyone has to have a different approach. So I don't do the thing where I'm like, oh, come on into my program. It's awesome. Look at all these testimonials. Here's some Google Docs.
Yeah.
I actually hold people's hands and literally go through things with them because everybody's different. We all have different learning styles. We all have different skills, traits, characteristics. And that's a big part of it, is just learning about who you are. The Enneagram is a tool that I use. I actually had Vanessa Fernandez of the Enneagram Workshop come and teach us the Enneagram. And so, the Enneagram is a tool that's similar to personality typing. So, like I'm an INFP, those types of
I'm INTJ.
INTJ. Right? Yeah. So understanding a little bit about that is really cool. What sets the Enneagram apart from like, let's say, most other models is it really focuses on the desire, the motivation of the person. So it's cool to like read a thing about you and it's like, I've got all these different characteristics. Oh, da, 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 da. But I think those characteristics are for you to really transcend, for you to challenge and grow. You shouldn't allow yourself to live in that box, but understanding the motivation of yourself and other people, it can make a huge difference in perceiving yourself as well as other people, putting yourself in other people's shoes. And it is a great writing device. If you understand, if your character is let's say an 8 on the Enneagram, they're a challenger and that's their type of personality. And they're connected to 2 different numbers, one being them kind of going toward their, hero's journey, finishing that. And then the other being sort of the thing that would be against them. So you could find out who the antagonist would be, what personality type would be the antagonist to that one just off the wheel. It's almost like cheating. You
just carry it on dates. Excuse me, you're an 8. I can't with you. This date's over. Check, please.
That's right. That's right.
Let's talk motivation for a second, because there is the motivation to learn and to be in this kind of world, any kind of pursuit, this one. But then there's also the motivation of internalizing and sharing it versus sharing it for other people. But then you went a step further and made that a business path, you want to be able to share it with your own client list. And so what had been the spark going through that? To go and learn about it, to say, is this worth sharing? And to go to say, I need to make this a full-time pursuit.
Yeah, the first motivation was, oh my God, the world's shut down. What am I going to do?
Say more, fam.
Yeah, right. So that was definitely a contributing factor. But I had some experience coaching before, and one day it just hit me. I was like, because I was doing the reality transferring thing, I was like, well, why don't I try coaching again? And so, I put something together this time that was completely. I had a friend of mine who I was sending her like sort of videos and outlines, and we were collaborating back and forth. But this was like a process that, over the past 8 years, I'm like, let me just take everything that I've learned in the past 8 years and smash it down as small as possible and put it into these modules and organize it in a way that I think could be really, if I were to learn all this stuff that I learned over the past 8 years in 8 weeks, let's say, how would I organize this information? And so it was really fun and confirming to be able to do that and get it all out and dump it all out. So part of that motivation too is to fill up on other information again. I don't know quite exactly where I'm going to go next. I've been learning about astrology and some other sort of things that are a little bit more woo, but getting every single bit of this information that I had sort of sucked into myself over the past 8 years out was a really motivating and really freeing feeling too. It felt good.
And then when you told your network, friends, family, this is what I'm doing now, was you're like, oh yeah, we definitely see that? Or was it kind of like explain it to me? What was their reaction?
Yeah. I've always been, my parents and people around me have always been very supportive. I guess my dad learned at a very young age that he wasn't going to be able to make me do anything. So what's he going to do, But yeah, it made sense. It was something that I'm a type 2 on the Enneagram, if that means anything to anybody listening. So it's the helper personality. And so that particular personality and, a lot of the skills that I've developed just randomly over strange, peculiar jobs and different forays into trying to figure out what I'm here to do, basically. It made sense. And I think a lot of people were like, yeah, that sounds cool. It's like, I've started a bunch of my own businesses over time. I've failed a lot and learned a lot, and I've seen other people fail and learn from their mistakes as well as their successes. So, incorporating that and really wanting to bring creative ways for people to make side income, etc. That's really another part of the gig that I actually really, really enjoy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about successes. The Bootsy Greenwoodcast live now, wherever you stream your podcast. I know there are millions of podcast options out there, but what makes this one so special to you?
So I started out as the Reality Transurfing podcast. That's kind of how that podcast started. And then when I started doing my own thing, I just had to rename it. And I'm wondering now, I'm like, should I have renamed it something else? Am I a little too neurotic naming it after? But it's my fakes persona, so maybe it's not that. But I'm thinking about maybe doing a little bit of something, or maybe adding something with a couple of friends, as far as like a collaborative show that may just be in addition to it, and name it something that makes more sense topically, like blue collar mystics or something like that, and then have a little bit of a roundtable. But I think I'll still also continue to interview people. I'm just interviewing people on a one-on-one. We talk about spirituality. We talk a little bit about comedy. We talk about self-development and stuff like that, mostly on my podcast. But I've explored a lot of different things. I had Michael Horn on there, who's like a UFOologist. He's very well known. I had Jessa Reed, who's a very funny comedian and also like pretty into some pretty out there stuff. And several different people. So I mostly just interview folks. We talk about anything that could be potentially helpful to the folks, at home, that they could apply for themselves.
Does everyone have the potential of being spiritual, or is that something you have to attain?
I think everything is spiritual, even getting blackout drunk.
You hear that, Mom?
It's not spiritual like we like to think about it. Like it's all dolled up. I think there's sort of this fake aura around a lot of spirituality that I want to be done with that. I don't like the guru thing. I don't like the sort of toxic positivity that kind of goes around this fake it till you fake it kind of thing. I think that can all go, because really I think spirituality should be about honesty and really, I would say vulnerability, just being vulnerable with whatever you perceive the force of the universe to be, or however you practice, your connection to life. It all has to reduce to one at some point. So I don't really know how that happens physically, but mathematically, there's a lot to it. And we also have infinity, which is pretty mind-blowing. You think about infinity is a real thing. So that is applicable as well. And I love this. This is kind of from that Transurfing book. And that instead of trying to access or become someone that you aren't, there's infinite versions of yourself. So if you learn how to choose and learn how to project a little bit, then you could potentially, kind of shove yourself into really quickly, like another version of yourself. If that kind of sounds weird, but it's an interesting shift as far as the mentality goes. Instead of being like, oh, I got to work and create all the stuff. It's like, well, if your goal already exists in one of the infinite sort of timelines, then it at least already exists. So you can relax a little bit. You don't have to so much create it, but you can kind of choose it, if that makes sense.
That straight up sounds like a comic book, like Doctor Strange, 14 million possibilities. All of them getting blackout drunk because it's spiritual. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Crossing fingers, man. Hopefully we're getting out of the pandemic. There's no relapse of that. But if you got a whole new lease on life creatively and as an individual, what do you want to accomplish the next year or two?
Yeah, I want to continue to bring these two ideas, that the mix together of, spirituality, self-help, and comedy. So I want to continue to bring those together, try to work with as many people as I can and bring them into a community. I feel like that's really important right now. And I think that was a big sort of motivation, other than just getting my own information out selfishly, is I really wanted to build a community. So I have, a Facebook group and a Discord server and things like that, where I have a lot of really talented and interesting people who view life in many different ways, and we collaborate that way. So I think that's a really strong motivator and something that's really important as we move into the future. Just having people that speak your language, people that you can talk to and just kind of let your guard down with. So I want to continue to grow those things. I'd like to, maybe even work with other people and see them grow in a sense of kind of how I have. If they have offerings that they want to bring into market, like a course or something like that, then I could help them, with that whole process, and maybe kind of go sort of into that realm where it's not just, me promoting one thing, but there's a lot of people that I'm working with. I love people. I love being around people, working with people
in the flesh.
Yeah. In the flesh is great. I mean, dude, I'm having a blast right now. Digitally is cool.
Oh, I didn't ask to be offended. I was like, I'll see what it is. I'll just be like in general, yeah.
No, dude. I really am. It's a great flow.
Yeah. Well, that's great too. I know that there's always a wanting for more and to expand the message and expand the meaning. But I always ask that question because there's like two camps. One being like, man, I don't know if this is coming back. I'm going to fortify my fortress to make sure I can survive inside. And there's some that go, hey, look, we have it. We learned from it. Let's take what we learned and go back and get smarter about going outside, interacting with people. So it's always great to see that dynamic, especially when it comes to spirituality, energies. Usually that gets filled up when someone's in the room with you. So it's pretty rad.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's really cool. There's a lot of different. And obviously we've learned it's certainly more effective to be in the same room, with somebody. But there's been a lot of amazing work being done remotely, and so that's pretty cool as well. So
yeah. Well, Owen, thank you so much for being on the show, New Amsterdam Radio. But here's the fun stuff. If someone's listening right now, they're inspired, they want to stalk you all over the internet, how do they go about doing that?
They could just type Bootsy Greenwood into any internet search, and I should come right up. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, a bunch of other stuff. My friends at Content Safe distribute my content, even on Gab TV, which is where all the haters apparently are. There's all kinds of different weird crevices of the internet, and I am trying to proliferate myself into each and every part. So Bootsy Greenwood is my sort of handle username online, and they can get at me, send me a message. You can go to my Facebook page or Instagram page or my website, which is just bootsygreenwood.com.
You know what? I'm actually proud of this because I've been doing content since 2001, and it took like 10 years to not have the flow bots come up when someone searched my name on Google. So I totally get it, man. Totally get it. Bootsy, Owen, always a good time. I want you to come back later on to see how things are going and progressing with your stuff because you are a citizen for the City of Creatives, New Amsterdam.
Dude, thank you so much. I've had an absolute blast. I'd love to have you on my show sometime.
Let's do it.